The first thing you notice each morning isn't the light, but the silence. It is a heavy, listening kind of silence, the sort that hangs over a place where secrets are kept. Your home, built against the cold stone of the town's Justice Tower, breathes this silence, and you have learned to breathe it too. It fills your lungs before the air does, a familiar weight in your chest. Some mornings it is broken by the distant, hopeful chime of the friary bell, a sound that feels like it belongs to another world, a world of clean prayers and simple faith. But most mornings, like this one, your day begins with a different kind of tolling. It isn't a bell. It is the low, guttural groan of heavy iron moving against stone. It's the sound of the dungeon door, far below, being opened or closed. That is your rooster's crow. That is the sound that tells you the darkest part of the night has passed, and the day, with all its burdens, must now be met. You lie still for a moment longer on the straw-filled mattress, feeling the profound chill radiating from the wall at your back. It is the outer wall of the tower itself, a constant, stony presence in your life, a permanent reminder of where you are. Even through the thickest wool blankets, you can feel its damp, ancient cold. It seeps into your bones, a cold that has nothing to do with the season. It is a cold made of fear and sorrow, and it lives in the very mortar of your home. You've grown used to it, in the way a sailor grows used to the constant motion of the sea. You shift, and the mattress rustles, a small, intimate sound in the vast, listening quiet. Beside you, Conrad sleeps on. His breath is a steady, slow rhythm, a comforting counterpoint to the tower's grim silence. In sleep, his face is smoothed of its usual tension. The deep lines etched around his eyes and mouth seem shallower, and he looks like the young man. You first met the one with the steady hands and the gaze that never flinched not from your own stare nor from the world's. You slip out from under the heavy blankets, your bare feet finding the familiar cold of the wooden floorboards. The air in the small chamber is thick and still. You have scrubbed the floors with lye and strewn dried lavender, but there is always a scent that lingers underneath. It's a faint, metallic tang, sharp and coppery, like old iron or a coin held too long in a sweating palm. It clings to the wool of your blankets, the wood of the furniture, the very air you breathe. You've noticed that it never quite leaves the linens, no matter how many times you boil them with soapwort by the river. It is the scent of his work. The scent of justice, some might call it. To you, it is simply the scent of your life, the price of your love. You dress in the dim light, your fingers finding the worn laces of your bodice without thought. Your movements are practiced, economical, making barely a sound. This is a house where you learn to live quietly, to exist in the margins of noise. Padding into the main room, you find the embers in the hearth are still glowing, a small, resilient heart of warmth in the gloom. You coax them back to life with a few pieces of kindling and your gentle breath, watching the orange light flicker and grow, pushing back the shadows. The small room serves as your kitchen, your dining hall, your entire world for much of the day. A sturdy table, a few stools, the wooden chests that hold all your worldly goods. It is sparse, but it is clean. It is a fortress of domesticity you have built against the stone and steel that surrounds you. Your first task of the day is always the same, the bread. You take the wooden bowl, worn smooth with years of use, and measure out the coarse, dark rye flour. It's heavy, gritty stuff flecked with bran. This isn't the fine, white bread of the wealthy merchants in their grand houses. This is bread meant to sustain, to fill a stomach and provide the strength for a long day's work. You add a pinch of salt and a little water, mixing it with your hands. The feeling of the dough coming together is one of the anchors of your day. It is real, it is life. It is something you create, something warm and nourishing in a place defined by its opposite. As you need, you let your mind drift. You think of the other women in the town, waking in their timber-framed houses. Their mornings probably smell of baking bread too, but also of wood smoke from their neighbors' chimneys, of livestock in the streets, of the river mist. Their mornings are part of a shared rhythm, a communal waking. Your world is so much smaller, so much more contained. Your view from the single, deep-set window is not of a bustling street, but of the high, blank outer wall of the town's fortifications. You live on the very edge of the community, both literally and figuratively. Your husband is the town's scharfrichter, the executioner, the one who carries out the sentences of the court. He is the adjudicator of the final, terrible moments. A necessary man, a vital cog in the machine of law and order, but one that everyone wishes to forget exists. And as his wife, you are tainted by the same brush. You are the executioner's woman. An outsider, living within the walls, but never truly part of the town. You chose this. You remember the day Conrad asked for your hand. He told you everything, holding nothing back about his family's inherited trade, about the scorn and the isolation. He gave you the chance to walk away, but you saw the goodness in him, the quiet integrity that lay beneath the grim title. And you chose him. You chose this life. You do not regret it, not truly. But some mornings the weight of that choice feels as heavy and as cold as the tower wall itself. You finish shaping the loaf, a dense, dark round, and place it on a stone near the hearth to bake. The smell of it will soon fill the small room, a temporary victory over the metallic tang in the air. You look back towards the sleeping chamber. You think of the children you hope to have, and a pang of worry strikes you. What life will they have? Will they be shunned in the market? Will other children refuse their games? This is the fear you must carry, the one you cannot share, even with the man whose steady breathing is the sound of your safety. You push the thought away, one day at a time. That is how you must live. The bread is baking. Your husband is safe beside you. For now, in the quiet solitude of the dawn, that is enough. The day has begun, and you are ready. You must be. The loaf you baked this morning is for your family, a private sacrament. But for everything else, you must go to the market. The thought of it settles in your stomach, a familiar knot of apprehension. It isn't fear, not exactly. You are in no danger. In a strange way, you are perhaps the most protected woman in town. No sane thief would dare touch the executioner's wife. No, it is not fear. It is a profound weariness, the exhaustion of putting on a suit of armor that no one can see. You take your wicker basket from its hook by the door, its smooth handle a familiar comfort in your palm. You check the small leather pouch for the few coins you have. It is enough, it must be. Taking a deep breath, as if about to plunge into cold water, you pull the door open and step outside. The air here, in the narrow space between your home and the town's outer wall, is still and shadowed. But as you walk the short path that leads towards the main thoroughfare, the world begins to open up. The sounds of life grow louder, the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the braying of a donkey, the high-pitched laughter of children. The smells change, too, from the damp stone of your home to the richer, messier scents of communal living wood smoke, animal dung, boiling cabbage. You pull your shawl a little tighter around your head, a simple gesture of modesty that also feels like hiding. The first few people you pass are men from the town watch, and they offer a curt, respectful nod. They work with your husband. They understand the necessity of his role. They are the bridge between your world and the town's. But once you pass the guardhouse and step onto the street that leads to the market square, the atmosphere shifts. A group of women gathered around a public well, their chatter lively and animated, falls suddenly quiet as you approach. Their conversation doesn't so much stop as it does get tucked away, their eyes darting towards you before finding something terribly interesting on the ground or in the middle distance. A man driving a cartload of hay, who was about to call out a greeting to someone on the other side of the street, closes his mouth and gives his mule a sharp tap, suddenly in a hurry. They are not unkind. They are simply careful. You have come to understand it, this carefulness. You are the wife of an unehrlicher Mann, a man of a dishonorable trade. It is a strange concept, you think. Your husband, Conrad, is an official of the court, his duties sanctioned by the very laws that govern the good people who now shun you. He is more honest than the merchant who uses a weighted thumb to measure his cloth, and more pious than the priest who was seen leaving the tavern at midnight. Yet his work, the necessary, terrible work of justice, has tainted him. It is a stain that no amount of honest living can wash away, and the stain spreads. It covers his home, his wife, his children. You are unehrlich Lut, dishonorable people, not because you have sinned, but because you live too close to the wages of sin. You are a living, breathing reminder of the dark bargain that civilization makes with itself. And no one wants to be reminded. As you enter the market square, the feeling intensifies. The square is a riot of life, a tapestry of color and sound. Farmers shout the prices of their cabbages and onions, a pig squeals in a wicker cage. The air is thick with the scent of spices from a trader's stall and the sweet promise of honey cakes. For a fleeting moment, you are just another woman in the crowd. But then, as you begin to move towards the stalls, it happens. The parting of the waters. It is a subtle miracle, a silent testament to your status. The crowd melts away before you. People don't jump or run. They simply find a sudden, urgent need to be elsewhere, to examine a bolt of cloth or greet a friend, leaving a small, clear path in their wake. It makes your journey easy, but it is an ease that feels like a wound. You keep your eyes forward, your expression serene. You have taught your face not to betray the sting. You go to the stall of a farmer you know sells the best onions. He sees you coming. His face, which was open and laughing with the previous customer, becomes a mask of professional neutrality. "Good morning," you say, your voice even and calm. "6 onions, please." He nods, selects them, and places them on the scale. He names the price. You place the coin on the wooden counter, and he picks it up only after you have withdrawn your hand. There is no small talk, no haggling, no shared complaint about the dry weather. The transaction is clean, swift, and cold. It is the same at every stall. You are served. You are not cheated, but you are not welcomed. As you stand for a moment, deciding where to go next, you see a group of children playing near the fountain, their faces bright with glee. Your heart aches as you think of your little Stefan. Just last week he had run to you, his face crumpled in confusion, tears welling in his bright blue eyes. A boy had pushed him away from a game of tag, shouting, "My mother says I can't play with the hangman's son." How do you explain the world's cruelty to a child of 5? How do you teach him to be proud of his father, a good and gentle man, when the world sees only a monster? You told him that his father's job was important, that he was helping to keep the town safe. But you saw in his eyes that he did not understand. He only understood the pain of being pushed away. That is the true weight of this life. It is not the whispers or the averted gazes you must endure, but the inheritance of shadow you pass on to your children. Your final stop is the baker's stall, not for bread, but for a small honey cake, a sweet treat for Stefan. As you turn from the baker's stall, the warmth of the cake in your basket is a stark contrast to the chill you feel from the silent glares and the empty space around you. In that moment, you find a flicker of quiet resolve. This is your life, a path walked in the shadow of others' fear. Have you ever felt judged for something beyond your control? I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below as we continue our journey together. Your stories help us all feel a little less alone in the dark. You turn for home, your basket heavier now, not just with onions and a cake, but with the full weight of your morning's commerce. The walk back is a retreat, a quiet journey from the world of judgment to the sanctuary of your home, the one place on earth you are not seen as a symbol, but are simply allowed to be. You slide the heavy bolt of the door behind you, the sound a satisfying thud that shuts out the world of the market. The air inside your home feels different now, thicker, warmer, safer. You lean against the wood for a moment, letting the mask of serene indifference you wore outside dissolve. Here, you don't have to pretend. Here, you are not a symbol. You set your basket down on the table, the small honey cake sitting atop the onions, a tiny beacon of sweetness. And then you see him. Your husband, Conrad, is sitting on a low stool by the window, the pale morning light catching the dust motes dancing around him. He is bent over his work, his brow furrowed in concentration. He is not holding a sword or an axe, the grim tools of his public office. He is holding a simple leather strap, mending a tear with an awl and a length of waxed thread. He looks up as you approach, his eyes, the color of a gray winter sky, softening when they meet yours. A small, slow smile touches his lips. He doesn't ask how the market was, he never does. He can read the answer in the subtle tension around your eyes, in the way you hold your shoulders. Instead, he simply reaches out and places his large, warm hand over yours. It's a gesture of silent understanding, a shared acknowledgement of the world you navigate together. You take the honey cake from the basket and offer it to him. He looks at it, then back at you, his smile widening slightly. For Stefan, he says, his voice a low, pleasant rumble. Yes, you reply, but you can have the first bite. He breaks off a tiny piece, his movements careful, and eats it. For a moment, he is not the town's Scharfrichter. He is just your Conrad, a man with a fondness for honey, sitting in the quiet light of his own home. You watch him turn back to his work. His hands are large and calloused, the hands of a man who works with rope and wood and iron. But his movements are surprisingly deft, a testament to a lifetime of practice. This is the part of his inheritance that people forget. The title of executioner passed from his grandfather to his father, and now to him was not just a sentence of social exile. It was a trade, a craft with its own set of skills. His father taught him not only the grim duties required by the court, but also how to work leather, how to splice a rope so it would never break, how to set a bone. Executioners, by the nature of their work, had a knowledge of the human body that few physicians could claim. They understood anatomy in a raw, practical way. They were masters of a dark and terrible craft, yes, but they were craftsmen nonetheless. This house, too, was part of that inheritance. A solid stone structure, rent-free, a privilege that kept a roof over your head, but it came at a price. The price was the whispers, the isolation, the invisible wall between your family and the rest of the world. It was a trade he had not chosen, a fate he was born into. And he carried it with a stolid, uncomplaining sense of duty that you both admired and mourned. He believed the law was the foundation of a safe town, and if his part was to be its grim final instrument, then he would perform that part with precision and without malice. He saw it as a responsibility, not a cruelty. You remember the first time you saw him, years ago, at the Midsummer Fair held in the fields outside the town walls? It was one of the few occasions where the rigid social order of the town seemed to relax, where a baker's daughter could find herself standing next to the son of an executioner. He was not like the other young men, loud and preening. He was quiet, self-contained, with an intensity in his gaze that made you feel as though he could see right through you. He didn't speak of his family or his future, not at first. He spoke of the hawk he had seen that morning, of the way the river flooded in the spring, of the satisfaction of shaping a piece of wood into something useful. You found yourself drawn to his stillness, to the sense of a deep and steady current running beneath a calm surface. And you remember the day he came to your father's house to ask for your hand? Before he spoke to your father, he spoke to you. He took you aside, and with that same unwavering gaze he told you everything. He explained what his name meant, what his future held, what life would be like for his wife. He painted a picture not of romance but of reality, a life on the edge of town, a life of being looked through and spoken about in hushed tones, a life where your children would carry the weight of his name. He gave you every reason to say no. He was offering you the truth as a dowry. In that moment, watching him stand there, so honest and so vulnerable, you felt a surge of something stronger than fear. It was a profound respect, a fierce and sudden love for this man who refused to hide from his own shadow. You saw past the title and into the heart of the man, and you chose him. You chose this quiet life, this heavy love. You chose Conrad. You are brought back to the present by the sharp, rhythmic pull of the thread as he tightens a stitch. You watch his hands, the same hands that hold you at night with such tenderness, the same hands that so gently stroked Stefan's hair when he was sick with a fever. You watch them now, working with such detached precision on a tool designed to inflict pain. It is the contradiction you live with every day, the two halves of the man you love. He is not a monster. He is a man doing a job the town needs but refuses to acknowledge, a job that grinds away at him piece by piece. And you wonder, what does it do to a man's soul to be the vessel for a town's justice? Conrad has been gone for less than an hour, summoned to the magistrate's office for a consultation, when you know you can put it off no longer. The task awaits. It is a part of your duty, one of the unspoken clauses in your marriage vows. Taking a deep breath, you light a tallow lamp, its small, sputtering flame a meager shield against the gloom you are about to enter. You walk to the back of your home, to a heavy, iron-banded door that does not lead outside, but deeper in. It leads to his workshop. You unlock it, and the air that greets you is different from the rest of the house. It is colder, stiller, with an earthy smell of damp stone and cold iron and something else. A faint, sharp scent of old sweat and fear, a ghost of an odor that no amount of scrubbing can ever truly erase. This room is not a dungeon of nightmare. It is a place of work, stark and brutally functional. The stone walls are bare, the floor swept clean. There is no clutter, only order. For the law, as Conrad has explained it to you in quiet moments, is all about order. And what happens here, in this cold, windowless room, is, in the eyes of the men who rule this town, an extension of that law. It is not random cruelty. It is a procedure, a science of a terrible kind, with rules as rigid as any guild's. You have learned these rules through a kind of osmosis, by living beside the man who enacts them. You know that torture is not the first step, but the last resort, to be used only when a serious crime is suspected heresy, murder, witchcraft, and there are no witnesses. In such cases, the law demands a confession. The confession, they say, is the queen of proofs, the voice of God compelling the sinner to admit their guilt. And this room is where the queen is made to speak. The process has a name, a formal dance of 3 parts. The first is terition, the terror. An accused person would be brought in and simply left to stand in the center of the room. They would be shown the tools. They would be told in a calm, measured voice what each one was for. The threat, you have come to realize, is the most powerful instrument of all. For many, the sight and the explanation are enough. The will breaks, and the confession comes, tumbling out in a torrent of fear and relief. You look around the room, seeing it as they would. To your right, hanging from a peg, is a coil of thick, sturdy rope, a pulley wheel beside it, the strappado. Simple, effective. The prisoner's hands are tied behind their back. The rope is attached to their wrists, and they are hoisted into the air, their arms wrenched from their sockets. It is a primary tool, a first step in the physical persuasion. It is often enough. When it is not, there are other steps. You walk over to a heavy wooden table bolted to the floor. On it, arranged with neat precision, are smaller items. Your task today is to clean them, to protect them from the damp that is the enemy of all iron. You pick up the first object. It is surprisingly heavy, made of 2 plates of iron connected by a long, thick screw. The Daumenschrauben, the thumb screws. You run a lightly oiled rag over the metal, your touch methodical. You know how it works. A thumb is placed between the plates and the screw is turned slowly, then the other thumb, then the big toes. It is a tool of escalating pressure designed to be measured, to be controlled, a turn, a question, another turn, another question. It is a conversation held in the language of pain. Your fingers trace the cold, unforgiving lines of the screw. Each tool has a name, a purpose, a place in the terrible theater of the law. As you wipe clean the cold iron, you're not just cleaning a tool, but touching the very architecture of fear. It's a heavy thought to hold alone. If you're finding this story compelling, perhaps take a moment to subscribe, so we can continue to explore these hidden corners of history together. You place the thumbscrew back in its precise spot and turn your attention to the largest object in the room, the one that dominates the space, the rack. It is a long, low wooden bed frame, solid oak, with a roller at each end. Ropes are attached to the rollers with manacles at their ends for the prisoner's wrists and ankles. At the head of the rack is a large lever, a windlass that allows the operator to slowly, incrementally, turn the rollers, pulling the ropes, stretching the body. It is the final argument of the law, the most extreme application of the interrogatio, the second stage of the process. It is a machine designed to unmake a person, to pull them apart joint by joint until the truth, or what passes for the truth, is given up. You have seen Conrad meticulously oiling its gears, ensuring its smooth operation. He treats it with the same detached care a miller gives his grinding stone. It is a tool for a job. He must not think of the grist. You run your rag along the smooth, worn wood of its frame. You have seen the diagrams in the legal text Conrad is sometimes required to consult, the ones that show which questions are to be asked at which degree of pressure. It is all codified, all written down. A doctor is often required to be present, to advise when the prisoner is near death. for a confession from a dead man is worthless. It is a chillingly rational system. It is built on the belief that an innocent person, supported by God, could withstand the pain. But you have seen the men who have been brought from this room. You have seen the truth of what it does to a body, to a mind. You wonder how many innocent souls, abandoned by a silent God, have screamed out the confession their tormentors wanted to hear, just to make the world stop tearing them apart. This is the work that happens in the shadows, the work that allows the judges to pass their sentences in the clear light of day. The confession is extracted here, but the final act, the executio, happens outside in the public square. Whether it is a beheading with the sword for a noble, hanging for a common thief, or burning for a heretic, that is a public spectacle. It is a warning, a reaffirmation of the town's power. But this room, this is where the certainty required for that public act is forged. It is the dark heart of the law. You finish your work, the metal gleaming dully in the lamplight. The room is clean, orderly, ready. You feel a profound sadness settle over you. You understand the logic. You understand the fear of chaos that drives men to create such systems. But as you stand in the silence, you cannot help but see the terrible, fragile line between the pursuit of justice and the perfection of cruelty. And you know that your husband, the man you love, is the one who must walk that line every single day. It happens in the late afternoon, when the sun is beginning its slow descent, and the light slanting through your small window has turned from silver to gold. There is a knock on the door. It is not the hesitant rap of a neighbor, nor the friendly tap of a friend, were you to have one. It is a sharp, peremptory sound, 3 hard raps that echo with the unbending authority of the law. You and Conrad exchange a look. The quiet peace of the afternoon vanishes, replaced by a sudden, cold tension. He rises from the stool where he was mending a harness for the cart, his movements calm and deliberate, and goes to the door. Standing on your threshold is a clerk from the magistrate's court, a thin, nervous man who refuses to meet your eyes. He holds out a rolled parchment, tied with a black ribbon and sealed with the town's crest. He does not step inside. The threshold is a border he will not cross. Conrad takes the parchment, his expression unreadable. The clerk speaks, his voice high and formal. A prisoner is to be put to the question. By order of the magistrate, the charge is heresy. Heresy. The word hangs in the air between you, heavy and cold. It is the most serious of charges, a sickness of the soul that the court is determined to burn out, one way or another. Conrad gives a single, sharp nod. The clerk seems relieved that the transaction is complete. He bows his head slightly, a gesture of protocol rather than respect, and retreats as quickly as he came. Conrad closes the door, and the sound of the bolt sliding home is unnervously loud in the sudden, thick silence of the room. The ordinary domestic quiet you shared just moments ago is gone. This new silence is different. It is the silence of preparation, the silence that precedes a storm. It is the silence of the work to come. Without a word, you begin the ritual. It is a dance you both know by heart, a series of small, anchoring actions that guide you through these moments. You go to the hearth, stoke the fire, and place a small pot of water to warm. You take down a wooden platter and arrange what food you have. A thick slice of the dark bread you baked, a wedge of hard cheese, and a few strips of smoked meat. It is a simple meal, but it is fortifying. It is the fuel he will need, for his work is not just emotionally draining, but physically demanding. You place the platter on the table, and he sits. He eats slowly, methodically, his gaze fixed on the table before him, but you know he is not seeing the wood grain. His focus has already shifted. He is moving away from you, away from this room, and into the cold, stark reality of the chamber next door. He is gathering himself, building the walls he needs around his heart. You do not speak. There are no words for this. Be careful is meaningless. Be merciful is not his decision to make. All you can offer is this food, this small act of care, a silent testament that you see the man, not the office he is about to assume. When he has finished, he pushes the platter away and rises. It is time for the second part of the ritual. You go to the large wooden chest in the corner of the room, the one that holds his official attire, and lift the heavy lid. The scent of cedar and old linen rises to meet you. You take out the garments. They are not the simple wool and linen he wears for his daily life. These are his work clothes, his uniform. There is a pair of heavy leather breeches, oiled to resist stains, and there is the tunic. It is made of thick, black-dyed linen, severe and without any ornament. Black is the color of his office, the color of solemn duty, the color that absorbs the light and hides what needs to be hidden. He strips off his own tunic and stands for a moment in the dim light. You see the muscles in his back and shoulders, the map of old scars from his own father's lessons and the raw, physical power he holds in check. You hold the black tunic open for him and he slips his arms into it. Your fingers brush against his neck as you help settle the heavy fabric over his shoulders. The brief touch is electric with all the things you cannot say. It is a plea, a prayer, a promise of your presence here, waiting on this side of the door. He pulls the tunic down and the transformation is complete. He is no longer your Conrad, the man who eats honey cakes in men's harnesses. He is the Scharfrichter, an instrument of the law, a figure of terror and authority. He stands for a moment, his eyes closed, mentally reviewing his task. You know he is thinking of the chamber, of the tools you so carefully cleaned, of the sequence of questions mandated by the court. He is preparing his mind as he has prepared his body. Then he opens his eyes and looks at you. It is a long, deep look, and in it you see everything. You see his regret for the fear he knows you feel. You see his grim resolve to do the duty he cannot escape. You see a flicker of the man you love, trapped beneath the black linen of his office. You hold his gaze, and with your eyes you try to send him strength. You try to tell him that you will be here when it is over, that he will have a home to return to, that he will not be lost to the darkness he is about to enter. He gives you one last, solemn nod. It is his only goodbye. He turns not towards the main door that leads to the town, but to the other one, the heavy oak door that leads to his workshop. He places his hand on the iron latch, and without looking back, he opens it and steps through, pulling it shut behind him. The heavy oak door closes, and the silence that returns is different. It's no longer the sleeping silence of the morning, but an active, listening void. Now you must simply wait. And in the waiting, the imagination can be a crueler torturer than any device of iron or wood. The door is closed. The waiting begins. This is, you have often thought, the hardest part of all. The work itself belongs to Conrad, a terrible burden that is his alone to carry. But the waiting is yours. It is a vast, empty space you must furnish with whatever strength you can find. You stand in the center of the room, listening. The silence is no longer a comfort. It is a canvas. And your imagination, freed from the discipline of the day, begins to paint upon it with dark and terrible colors. To keep the paintings at bay, you must move. You must find an anchor in the mundane, a task so simple and familiar it can occupy your hands and quiet your mind. You find your mending basket. Inside is one of Stefan's small stockings, a hole worn through the heel from his endless running and playing. You sit on the stool by the window, the one Conrad just vacated, and thread your needle. The tiny, repetitive motion of the needle dipping in and out of the wool is a comfort. You focus on the stitches, making them small and even a neat row of order against the small chaos of the tier. Each stitch is a prayer, a moment of focused intent. In, out, the world shrinks to this tiny point of creation, of mending what is broken. It feels like a lie, this small act of repair, while something so much more profound is being unmade in the room next door. But it is a necessary lie. It is the lie that allows you to breathe in, out. You are just a woman, mending her son's stocking. That is all you are. You repeat it to yourself, a silent incantation against the listening silence. After a time, the stocking is whole again, the patch of new thread a small, dark square against the faded gray wool. The silence rushes back in to fill the space your concentration had held. It feels heavier now. You feel a need for air, for something alive. You go to the back door and step into the small, high-walled yard that is your private domain. Here, in a few wooden boxes filled with soil you carried up from the riverbank, is your garden. It is your rebellion. You tend to it with a fierce devotion. You run a leaf of mint between your fingers, its sharp, clean scent a welcome antidote to the metallic tang that lingers in your home. You check on the chamomile, its small sun-like faces turned towards the sky, and you know that soon you will harvest them to make a tea that helps Conrad sleep on the nights when the work sits too heavily upon him. There is sage for cleansing and lavender for calm. You are cultivating remedies, small ounces of peace and healing. The irony is so sharp it could draw blood. Here you are, nurturing plants to soothe pain while only a few yards away, through a wall of cold stone. Pain is being measured out with scientific precision. You are pinching a yellowed leaf from a thyme plant when you freeze. What was that? A sound, a low, muffled cry, cut short. Oh, was it just the wind whistling through a crack in the stone? Was it the scrape of a cart on the street outside the walls? You stand perfectly still, straining to hear, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs. But there is only the wind, and the distant cry of a gull. It was nothing. It was your mind playing tricks. But the illusion, if that is what it was, has done its work. The wall you so carefully built between your world and his has been breached. You can no longer pretend you are just a woman in her garden. You are the woman who lives next to the chamber. The woman who provides the clean rags and washes the soiled ones. The woman who prepares the meal that gives the torturer his strength. You are not innocent in this. Your hands do not hold the tools, but you are the one who keeps them from rusting. A cold wave of shame and sorrow washes over you, so powerful it makes you dizzy. You understand, with a clarity that hurts, that your love, your care, your domesticity is all part of the machine. You are the one who mends the man so that he can continue to do the breaking. The minutes stretch into hours, measured by the shifting light across the floorboards. In these moments of profound quiet, what do you think sustains a person? Is it faith, love, or simple necessity? I'd be fascinated to read your perspective on this in the comments. Your thoughts add so much to our shared exploration. For you, it is a braid of all three. Necessity demands you endure. Love demands you support the man you chose, and faith. Faith is the most complicated of all. You sink to your knees on the cold floor, not in supplication for the soul of the accused heretic that is for the priest to worry about, but in a desperate, fervent prayer for your husband. You do not pray for his safety or for his work to be successful. You pray for his soul. You pray to a God you are not sure is listening, and you ask him to shield Conrad's heart. Do not let it turn to stone, you plead into the silence. Do not let him become the thing they believe him to be. Let him feel the pain of his work, because the pain is what proves he is still a man. Let him come back to me. When this is over, let the man I married walk back through that door. You finish your prayer, but you do not feel the peace that prayer is meant to bring. You only feel hollowed out, empty. There is nothing left to do now but sit. You rise from your knees and take your seat on the stool again, your hands lying limp in your lap. You stare at the door, you wait. And you listen to the silence, which has now become the sound of your life. The sound, when it comes, is so quiet you almost miss it. It is the soft click of a latch, the groan of a hinge, and then the gentle thud of the workshop door closing. Your vigil is over. You rise from your stool, your body stiff from hours of stillness, and turn to face him. Conrad stands in the doorway, a silhouette against the deeper dark of the chamber behind him. He does not look triumphant or powerful. He looks like a man who has been hollowed out from the inside, a mere shell of himself. His broad shoulders are slumped forward, and his face, pale in the flickering lamplight, is a mask of profound exhaustion. His eyes are empty, staring at a point somewhere beyond you, still seeing what he was forced to see. He brings the cold of that other room with him. It clings to him like a shroud. You do not speak. This is a time for silence, for the language of ritual that you have built together to bridge these terrible gulfs. You approach him, and he stands passively, a statue of a man, as you begin your work. Your first task is to remove the uniform. You untie the leather laces at the neck of the black tunic, your fingers nimble and sure. The fabric feels cold and heavy, imbued with the grim energy of its purpose. You gently pull the garment up and over his head, careful that it does not touch his face. You fold it inward, trapping its invisible contamination, and place it in a separate basket by the door. It must be washed alone, always alone? Underneath he wears a simple linen undershirt, now damp with sweat. You help him remove that too, and then his leather breeches. He stands before you, stripped of his office, vulnerable in the warm light of your home. He is one step closer to being yours again. While he waits, you move with practiced efficiency. You drag the large, round wooden tub before the hearth, its familiar scrape on the stone floor a comforting sound. You have kept 2 large cauldrons of water heating by the fire, and now you carefully ladle the steaming water into the tub. The room fills with clouds of warm, clean steam, a welcome fog that seems to push back at the chilling aura emanating from him. You unstopper a small clay jar and sprinkle a handful of dried herbs into the water. The scent rises instantly, a fragrant wave of chamomile and lavender and sage. It is the smell of healing, of peace, of your garden. It is the smell of sanctuary. You are not just preparing a bath. You are performing an exorcism, using steam and scent to drive the spirits of the chamber out of your home. He watches you, his eyes still distant, but a flicker of awareness has returned. He sees what you are doing for him. He steps into the tub and sinks down into the hot water with a long, shuddering sigh that is part sound, part collapse. It is the sound of a body that can finally relinquish its tension, of a man letting go of a terrible strength. You take a rough linen cloth, dip it in the fragrant water, and begin to wash him. You start with his back, your movements firm and steady. You wash away the grime of his work, the sweat of his exertion. You work your way over his shoulders and down his arms. As you do, you see the marks the work has left on him. A dark, angry bruise is already forming on his forearm, where he must have braced himself against the leva. The skin of his hands is red and raw, and his knuckles are scraped. His work is a violent struggle, and his own body is a participant, a casualty. You clean these small wounds with a gentle touch, your silence a testament to your understanding. You are a healer, tending to the wounds of a warrior back from a battle no one will ever acknowledge. He says nothing of what happened in the chamber. He never does. Your role is not to ask, but to mend. You wash away the grime and the cold, trying to restore the man you married. But you know, with a certainty that chills you, that some stains don't wash out, they seep into the soul. The water can make his skin clean, but it cannot touch the images now burned into his memory. It cannot erase the sounds he heard or the words that were spoken. You can wash his body, but you cannot wash his mind. All you can do is offer this temporary baptism, this ritual of return, and pray that it is enough. When you are done, you help him from the tub, wrapping him in a thick, dry woolen blanket you had warming by the fire. He stands, dripping and shivering slightly, as you gently dry him. You help him into a clean nightshirt, the soft, worn linen a comfort against his skin. The transformation is nearly complete. The hollowed-out shell who walked through the door is gone, and in his place is a tired, wounded man. He is Conrad again. He allows you to lead him to the stool by the fire, and he sits, staring into the flames, his hands wrapped around a cup of chamomile tea you place between them. You sit on the floor beside him, leaning your head against his knee, your own silent act of comfort. After a long time he stirs. He slowly lifts a hand from his cup and places it on your head, his fingers gently stroking your hair. It is his only acknowledgement, his only thank you. It is enough. He is home. The day is over, but you both know that a part of it will linger forever, a ghost sitting with you by the fire. Sleep does not come. It is a frequent visitor to your husband, who, after a day like this, falls into an exhausted, dreamless slumber as if dropping off a cliff. But for you, sleep is a shy creature, easily startled. His deep, even breathing is a steady rhythm beside you in the dark, a sound that tells you he is, for now, at peace. The chamomile tea has done its work. The demons of the chamber have been kept at bay for one more night. But you are awake, your mind a still, deep pool reflecting the events of the day. The silence has returned to the house, the true silence of night, where the only sounds are the settling of old timbers and the whisper of your own breath. Quietly, so as not to disturb him, you slip out of bed. The floorboards are cold beneath your feet as you pad to the window, the same window that offers you only a sliver of the world by day. But by night, it offers a different view entirely. The moon is high and full, a silver coin in a velvet sky, and it bathes the world below in a soft, forgiving light. From your vantage point in the tower, you can see the rooftops of the town spread out like a sleeping giant's blanket. The steep gables of the merchant houses, the low roofs of the artisans' workshops, the spire of the church pointing a stony finger towards God, all is quiet, all is peaceful. It is a picture of perfect order and tranquility. And you are the watcher on the wall, gazing down upon it. Down there, in those warm beds, the good people of the town are sleeping. The baker, his hands pale with flour, dreams of rising dough. The magistrate, who signed the parchment that began this day's terrible work, dreams of his good standing and his growing wealth. The women from the well, who fell silent at your approach, dream of their children and their gardens. They all sleep the sound, untroubled sleep of the righteous, the sleep of those who believe themselves to be safe. And they are safe. They are safe from the murderer in the night, the heretic in their midst, the chaos that lurks just outside the sturdy town walls. Their safety is a fortress built of law and faith. But you know the truth. You know that every fortress has its dungeons. Their peace is bought at a price, and that price is your husband's soul. This is the great, unspoken bargain of their society. They need a man to be the final, terrible word in their story of justice. They need someone to wield the sword, to work the rack, to stand at the gallows. They need a vessel for all the state-sanctioned violence they are too pure to commit themselves. And so they created his office. But in creating it, they had to create a space for it, and that space is on the very edge of their world, a place of dishonor. They need him, but they must despise him. If they were to accept him, to welcome him, to treat him as one of their own, they would be forced to accept the darkness within themselves, the knowledge that their clean, orderly world is built upon a foundation of pain and fear. So they shun him. They shun you. You are the scapegoats, the family designated to carry the town's sins so that everyone else can feel clean. Your isolation is the cost of their community. Your shame is the price of their pride. You press your forehead against the cold glass of the window. Where is God in this terrible equation? Is he in the righteous prayers of the priest in the grand church? Is he in the desperate, terrified pleas of the prisoner in the chamber? Or is he here in this quiet room, watching a woman watch over the man who must be the hands of both the law and its violence? You think of justice? Is it the elegant words on the magistrate's parchment or the brutal reality of a dislocated shoulder? You think of sin? Is it a secret, heretical thought whispered in a dark room, or is it the methodical, systematic breaking of a human being to extract it? The lines are so blurred, the morality so tangled, that you fear you could get lost in it forever. All you know for certain is your own quiet truth, your love for the man sleeping in your bed. Your purpose is not to understand the town, or its laws, or its God. Your purpose is to be his harbor, to provide the one place in this world where he is not the Scharfrichter, but simply Conrad. You are the guardian of his humanity. A wave of profound, weary sadness washes over you. It is the melancholy of knowing that this will never change. This is your life, a constant, quiet struggle to find grace in the darkest of corners. But beneath the sadness, there is a bedrock of resilience. You chose this, you chose him. And you will not falter. You will mend the stockings and tend the herbs and prepare the baths day after day. You will continue your silent, vital work of mending the man who is tasked with breaking others. You turn from the window and glide back to the bed. You slip under the covers, the warmth of his body a comfort beside you. You look at his face in the moonlight, the lines of exhaustion smoothed away in sleep. He is just a man. Your man, that is the only prayer that matters. The moon traces the cobblestones below. Down there, they sleep soundly, protected by the fear your family wields. And you, here in this tower, you will watch over the man who carries that fear for them. This is your life on the edge of town, a life of silent service and quiet love in the shadow of the gallows. Thank you for walking this path with me tonight. May your own rest be peaceful.